Hello everyone and welcome. In this video, we're going to take a look at Google's NotebookLM. This is a tool essentially to get a lot of different notes from different sources and be able to kind of easily organize and get quick, insightful, helpful information from said sources. In the name NotebookLM or language model, it is used with Gemini. This is something where right now it is free, and I don't know why it came up, but I just had a pop-up about it in Google Spreadsheets and went in and checked it out. It has been out for a while, but once I saw it, I was like, I'll give it a try. As mentioned, it seems it is free at this point with some to get started, whatever that means. And there is this plus where you get more things to it. So, you can continue on with the link and kind of see what's there, or just give it a try and see. I was able to use it with my personal Google account, and so it should be available for everyone. I know some of the workspace accounts, it might have some different things depending on your organization, both in how they use and collect data, as well as just, there might be something that might be disabled or things like that, depending on the admin console. So, if you're watching this and wanting to give it a try, go for it. But in any case, if you just look up NotebookLM, you should get to this page. You can do try and it'll create a new one if it was your first time. Otherwise, you'll see some different work ones that you have. And essentially, what you're able to do is add sources. Now, these sources, there are some limitations with it. Both there are some websites that it doesn't work, some YouTube videos if the text or if there isn't captions or things like that. And there's been a few other ones too. But really, you can use sources from all over. In this example, I'm just going to paste in this, and we're going to essentially create a notebook LM. We're going to use it with some of the structured tables in Google Sheets, just as the example here. So I'm uploading a Google Workspace blog, and when you do that, you're going to have different sources to show there. And so I have this one, and it kind of gives a brief, information on it. I can remove sources. I can add more sources, and then based off of those, get some different things. So I'm going to go ahead and add another, let's do a YouTube video. And this one is YouTube video I made on Google Sheets, the new table footers. And I'm going to add a few more too, just so we have some more sources. But when you have it, you can see this is the text of the video. And so it's using that in order to get it there. You can, of course, go and watch the video too. And when you have these two sources, then you can have some notes and different things using both of those sources. Now, I have one that I have a few more. I'm going to just basically upload all of the Google information as well as my own videos on Google Sheets tables, and then we'll kind of go there. So this one I created a little bit earlier. So you can see here, there's some of these different YouTube videos. There are some ones here, and you can also add a lot of other sources. You can add PDFs if you're doing something there. You can add Google Drive, and you can add sources there as well. For now, I'm just going to keep these ones here. And there's a few things you can do. You can add a note yourself. You can have an audio overview. You can do briefing doc, or you can ask things about it. Like you can just type and ask. And this is using Gemini as well as these sources to kind of answer those questions. So again, language models typically pull information in, and then as you give it specific sources, it's going to answer based off of what is in those ones. You might ask about like, what's the top 5 new features in Google Sheet tables? And based off of these videos and this article, you'll get these kind of information with it. Again, these are going to be tailored based off of what I've said in those videos or the workspace, but you can see here, there's the table references, group by, you can make pre-built, there's the import and range functionality now, and then so on. And so, again, it's nice that it actually shows the sources of where it's getting these, and you're able to select one of those and actually go to the source guide and see some different information on where it's coming from. And if there's a video, you can go in there. Otherwise, it's just essentially the words within it. And so that in of itself can be super useful if you're trying to study for something, or you're, uploading some different material for a class, or, you have these different concepts you're trying to grasp. This is a way to really hone in, as long as your sources are reliable. Now, I am choosing these ones because, well, I made the majority of these, so that will help where I'm more of an expert in it, or, the content creator. So I'd be able to really distinguish if, like, no, that's not in there, that's not something. But in any case, now there's the sources, there's the chat. The next will be kind of the studio. And this is where you can actually create things. Now, I created one already just because it does take a while. The interactive mode I haven't really messed with. Essentially, what you can do is you can create different components to it. So maybe you're using this and you want to make a study guide. You can just click study guide and there's going to be a new one there. It takes a little bit to generate. I made an FAQ already. So if you go onto this, it'll actually show these different things, like how can I create it? And then it'll give information. What's the new features? What's this group by? So on. And so it's just kind of a quick FAQ. Now, here's a study guide. So I would almost say, when I've looked at it, it's a little bit more like a practice test is kind of, or a quiz is what I would say. So like here, it's literally asking you. So I would say a quiz would be a better way instead of a study guide. But in any case, so what are these tables and how do they differ? And then you can get the answer. It's kind of the type, it's formatted, has its own features. Describe 2 ways to create it. You can create it by either selecting it and making those, or go to format, convert to table. So, those are, again, pulling different information from there, which is nice. This one, it doesn't quite make as much sense as, I would say this has a little bit more education side, if you will, if you're working on a certain math concept or things like that. You can also do a briefing doc and then a timeline as well. The other one was this audio overview, and I already created it. Let me just go back to that other one here. What you will essentially get is, once you add some of these things here, you can have a deep dive conversation. And you can't really edit anything here at this point outside of, you can customize it to, what should these hosts, kind of thinking of like a podcast between 2 different, hosts, AI, like what do you want them to really focus on? And, again, my initial prompt with the other one was like, start by giving a summary, pros and cons, and then a conclusion on it. And so when you go into it, and we'll listen to a little bit. I'm not going to show the entire, it's like 13 minutes, but it'll essentially go through and do those things as you said. So, in this, you can ask it specific things on it, like what you want it to focus on. And so maybe for this one, since it's the footers, what are the recent changes with Google Sheets tables? What are some new additions that should be added? And this is just based off of these 2 sources, so it may be limited. It is generated audio, so there might be some, incomplete things. Honestly, for the first one I did, I was pretty impressed versus, like, it was, I think, pretty accurate to those sources. Again, I know those sources very well. But in any case, so you do that. I'm going to leave that in the background, and maybe we can start it too. We'll see. But in any case, we have these ones that you can create. You can create this as well. You can ask it questions as well. I'm just going to go into this and play a little bit of the audio. I'm not going to do all 13, but I'll share the link too if you want to see the 13 minutes, especially if you are already familiar either with my videos or just tables in general. You can kind of see how it is. And yeah, I'm gonna let them do the talking.
All right, listeners, buckle up. Today we're taking a deep dive into something that, at first glance, might seem kind of small: structured tables in Google Sheets. But trust me, based on the sources you sent over, This update is a lot bigger than it looks.
You hit the nail on the head. And the mix of sources you gave us is perfect for this. We've got official announcements from Google, detailed help docs, Andy, even some YouTube tutorials by M@TT to see it in the wild.
Yeah, even skimming the Google blog post, I was like, whoa, wait, I can do that now.
Right. Things that used to be such a pain, like importing whole tables from other spreadsheets, that's built in now.
Oh, and those custom data views Emmett TT shows
Side note, I feel like I should go buy Emmet now. That's funny.
in their videos. Talk about a time saver. Imagine analyzing and presenting info that easily. It really feels like structured tables are like level 2 of spreadsheets. It's like we went from building with Legos to having like actual walls and a roof.
Perfect analogy. But okay, before we get too excited about the fancy stuff, let's back up. What are structured tables in Google Sheets officially?
All right, so if we go by the Google Workspace Updates blog and the FAQ, it's basically a zone in your sheet that Sheets is like, this is one data set, not just random cells.
And that's huge, GE. It's not just looks. It changes how Sheets understands your data, and that unlocks a ton of stuff.
Yeah, like those table references they kept mentioning in the blog. Instead of formulas pointing at specific cells, they refer to the whole table. Way more flexible.
Exactly. Remember that example they gave, counting tasks by priority level?
Oh yeah, the formula was so much cleaner with table references.
Mm.
And I realized even if you add or remove tasks, the formula is still good. No more broken references if your data moves around.
Exactly, which is a constant headache in normal spreadsheets. What else jumped out at you from the official Google stuff? Anything you're dying to try?
Oh man, so much. Auto formatting and built-in data validation, those are huge GE time savers. Plus, how easy they've made filtering, sorting, and making those custom views. It's really intuitive.
And thinking about it from a user's point of view, those little touches, like how easy it is to add rows and columns right within the table and formulas extend automatically as you add data, it's going to make such a difference day to day.
For sure. It's like they took all those little annoying manual things we do in spreadsheets, and we're just like, nope, we've got this.
Yeah.
No more spending hours setting up data validation rules one by one or formatting every single row.
So much time saved. It lets you actually focus on your content and the analysis. Which, speaking of, did you get to those YouTube tutorials by M@TT? They really complete the picture, I think.
Oh yeah. Emmett TT is great at showing how all this works practically, not just in theory. Like they even showed this hotkey to instantly create a table control plus Alt plus T or Command plus Option plus T for Mac folks. Small thing, but it speeds things up.
And what I liked is they didn't just stick to the basics. They actually dug into some workarounds for the limitations, which means they've really been using this stuff.
Totally. They demoed how to add rows and columns within the table structure itself, how dragging values down expands your formulas, ND data validation, and that crazy import trick using import range to pull in tables from other sheets.
So helpful. M@TC seems as excited about this as we are. But they also didn't shy away from the areas where structured tables could improve.
Right, no features perfect. Like that issue they highlighted with import range and table references and charts.
Oh, yeah. At first, it was a bit of a mess, but get this. In one of their later videos, they show how Google already fixed it in an update.
That's so good to see. It shows Google's listening to users and actually refining this thing. But MNTT did find some other challenges that still stick around, right?
Yeah, things like keeping your formatting consistent when you use formulas to make custom table views. That can get a bit tricky.
And they mentioned how there's no app script integration yet, which for the power users out there who do lots of automation,
Yeah.
that's a big one.
Totally.
All right, I'm just going to stop it. I mean, honestly, it sounds pretty good. The audio is decent. Overall, with what they were covering, they were able to use the sources. In some ways, they reference, like, this is from their blog or this is from that video. I mean, honestly, it's pretty solid. Now, I'm not going to say, like, yeah, you can use this and start a podcast yourself. There's some of the stuff in there that didn't quite make sense. And if you listen to it in its entirety, it starts to kind of repeat some of the stuff. Even in this 4 minutes that we listened to, there were parts of it that import range, which, again, was covered in multiple videos, and maybe that's where they're pulling. But in any case, it's pretty good. I mean, it was, at least to me, kind of interesting to listen to it. And if nothing else, if you make your own videos and you're uploading them, you can just get all this praise from the AI. Calling you Emmett. So I will put a link to this, and you can essentially share it. You can put it on public or private. And so it's default private, but I'll do that. There's nothing, personal information. Feel free to listen to entirety if you want. You can change the speed, which is nice. But really what I would say with this is a new way to be able to one, create notes, create summaries on different sources, and then be able to, based off of your, I guess, learning needs or the way that you like to consume information, you can create it tailored to that. You can get quick summaries. You can ask and have that kind of interactive component. You can do study guides. You can have briefing. You can have timelines if it makes sense. I don't think that's going to actually pertain to this, but if you're doing something with history or have specific dates, I think there's going to be something there. And we'll see, because I know that there are some different things, which I guess, let's see. Yeah, okay. Well, it's not bad actually. So I guess there's some, but as I went back to it, you can make just a briefing quick. You can have a guide. You can have some FAQs if that's what you need for your content. And, I've done like 5 or 6 sources. You can add 50. And so more complex ones or bigger problems or, ones that have different opinions to it. While you could read and know every single one of the articles, this is an interesting way to give you that information and be able to take it in whatever format you want. Now, in that, there is a couple of things that I would, one, want to be cautious of. First, and it can be seen down here, it could be inaccurate. While looking at this, the majority of what it has been said, what is stated, is there. There are some parts that it's like, well, not quite. And while I chose sources like that are pretty reliable, it can, depending on the sources you put, give some false information if the sources aren't great. It also can, repeat things or kind of say in different ways. I would say this is something that if you knowledge in that field, trying to like making a briefing doc or, summarize something or make a study guide for students, I think this is a really useful way as long as you go through and double check all of it. There could be some incorrect facts or it could be inaccurate in certain spots. And that would then be the caution, at least that I would say, if you are using this as a study guide yourself, you'd want to make sure, like if there's something that sounds like it might not be quite right, check the source, check what they're actually saying and see, is that really how it should be? Because again, it is helpful to organize it and kind of change those sources into a more digestible format. You just want to be careful of what's actually being said. The other thing I would bring up too is you can use your Google Docs and other things there. I would just be cautious of what information is on there. While I don't think that this is going to be something that's open or public, or in fact, I can't actually share this exact one to someone else, or like as like a public link, you have to individually set it. You just might want to be careful, especially if you have different like personal information on a document or something there. So I just say be careful and be cautious. That's kind of the summary of everything. Honestly, I'm impressed with it. When it comes down to what I would potentially use this for, would be this. One, if I'm learning something, which right now I'm actually working on, it's called the CompTIA A+, which is a IT certification. I might actually use this and put some different sources in there and kind of based off of all of these different things, what are some of the key points in it? Or, give me the quick rundown of the terms and things like that. Like I was mentioning, you have to be cautious of what sources you're putting in there. But if you're using high quality content, you should get a high quality notes and responses. I think that there's some very useful ways to use it as a learner. If you're someone in a kind of a training or an education field, I think this would be a great way to quickly change sources into study guides if you want some questions, as long as you're previewing it. If you're an expert in that field, you would be able to quickly tell high quality content versus this isn't really a great question. Whereas if you're learning it, you might not know if that's actually a good question or not. Just be mindful of that, but I think there's a lot of different uses in there. Honestly, I've really enjoyed using this. I think it's a really great way to kind of summarize details from different sources. Looking forward to trying this in my own learning and maybe for some of my different tasks where I need to summarize things. So hopefully you find this video interesting, helpful. Do those social things, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment if you have any questions or things you found interesting or uses that you've done with it. We'll see you in the next video. Bye now.